I'm Scott Brown, president of NetDevil, and we're talking about Jumpgate Evolution, which is our massively multiplayer space shooter. Sure, so the idea of the game is to capture sort of the old fun of all the great sort of space sims of the past, like Wing Commander, X-Wing, Elite, that style of gameplay, but brought to a massively multiplayer level, so you're having that kind of game experience, but with thousands of other people at the same time. Well, the big thing for us was, first thing, no tutorial. We wanted to throw you right into the action. It's an action game at its heart, and that's what we wanted to get you to right away. So we basically put you in space, introduce you slowly to one feature at a time. You get guns, and then you get a missile, and a few missions later you get shields, and eventually we start teaching you about the power management system and kind of all the complexity that's there. We just sort of introduce it to you very slowly through basically playing missions early on. Well, really, it's like mini MMOs in a lot of ways. You know, missions, auctions, crafting, guilds, all those things are here. That's all part of our game. The big difference from really Jumpgate and anything else right now is that it's based on player skill. So when you get in and when you shoot somebody, there's no dice roll. It's all your ability to hit or not. So we have a number of different ways you progress. So we still have levels. We have a licensing system, which is basically based on flight hours. You get access to different licenses. We've got a ton of different medals you can achieve in the game, titles that you can get from those. We have a whole leaderboard system and stats system based on tracking all your behavior in the game. Very similar more to almost like a Battlefield style advancement system. So we've got that out there as well for more kind of the shooter fans coming in. And then we have factions. So as you fly missions for different groups, you'll gain rating with them, which gives you access to specialized ships that you can fly and things like that. Well, we didn't want to lose that because that's something that made our game what it was. So what we did is we added something we called a dampener, which is like a driving assist or traction control system, right? So when the dampener is on, basically what's happening is you're flying around and the ship kind of is using its lateral thrusters to pretty much aim you in the direction that you're facing. But you turn the dampener off, it returns to the old flight model, and you can still do things like turn around backwards and fire at ships behind you and fly along sideways next to a ship or something. So you kind of have both models in the game at the same time. I use both, so it depends on what I'm doing, right? If I'm flying through an asteroid field, I have flight assist on. If I'm out in big open PvP space, I have it off because I like to be able to strafe a lot more while I'm fighting. Sure, so again, honestly, it's very similar to what you would expect in most MMOs, right? So there's big boss fights that require a lot of players together to take down the big ships, and they could be anything from a capital ship to a base to even there's large aliens in our game we actually have to take out. Then there's the reputation sort of game that, once you're maxed out on level, you still have to get your rep up with all the different groups if you want to fly all the different various ships in the game. There's crafting that really never ends. You can always be building better and better stuff. And then there's PvP. And there's two kinds of PvP. There's open PvP where you're battling to capture and control space. You actually have to work to build battle stations out in space and take over and control a sector. And that battle never ends. It's the ongoing battle for control. And then there's this sort of instanced kind of PvP where we call it battle space, where basically you just hop in and instant combat. So you just get in, play a match, resets, play it again, and play it again. So you can really kind of do any kind of PvP you're interested in for a long time as well. Battle space is, instant. Any station when you're in it, you just hit the battle space button, choose the map you'd like to play in, and you hop in. So there's a bunch of different classes of ships in the game. We have light fighters, heavy fighters, kind of a bomber role. We have a scout ship. We have a transport ship. So all of them play different roles in the game. And as you advance up, you'll sort of specialize in the different ship types. Then on top of that, you have a variety of equipment you can put onto your ship. So there's guns and missiles and engines and shields. We have a system called mods, which is, for lack of a better word, everything else. So consumable things like a battery recharge pack or an engine booster or any of those kinds of things are what the mod system is for. And then the power plant is really the core of it all. So that's really how you balance the ship. So you only have so much power available on your ship. And so if you want to go with really extra high-powered weapons, you're not going to have any power left over for your engines or your shields. And so if you want a very fast ship and you go kind of overpower the engine there, then you're not going to have power left for the other systems. And then you also have other choices like, energy weapons don't have ammo, but use a lot more power. Ammo weapons use less power, but you can run out of ammo in the middle of a fight and you have to go back and buy more. So there's a lot of sort of tweaking. I think this is where the min-maxers really get a lot of enjoyment out of sort of what's that exact right combination of stuff, you know, to build. And again, this is where the crafting system comes in, because the majority of items in the game are only built by other players. Well, so, you know, the game is relatively feature complete at this point. We're real happy with how it looks and how it runs and how it flies. We're not happy with the rest of it. It's not great, and it's not as good as it can be. And so we're in friends and family testing now, and kind of once we get through this kind of pass through a lot of stuff, we'll kind of ramp that into beta, and then the timeline from there is purely based on beta, right? So if it's going great and everybody's loving it and we hit the nail on the head, then we're ready to go. And theoretically the game could launch now, right? So it's not a technical or a server limitation. It's just a quality limitation, and so it'll totally depend on how the beta runs as to how aggressive or not we are with the schedule from here.